So, what are some of... I'm very much interested, before I actually ask my question, I'm very much interested in your feeling, in your feelings.
My feelings?
Your feelings.
Okay.
In terms of, first of all, what did you expect before the masterclass started? Or what did you expect to feel before the masterclass started? And what are you feeling now?
Okay, what did I expect before? When you first, okay, let's go all the way back.
All the way back.
When you first approached me, I was like, really? You want me to do what? Me? Are you sure? What? I don't understand. And I'm pretty sure I expressed that.
Yes, you did.
Okay, but I'm not too sure that I'm the right person for this. Like, really? But after you explained to me kind of the ethos behind it, your ideas, your vision for what the masterclass would be, I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. I think I have stuff to share. I think I have stuff that people can maybe be inspired by or relate to, resonate with. I'm like, all right, fine. But in putting everything together, I'm like, oh, I've done some pretty interesting things. I've done some pretty cool projects.
Absolutely.
And I've worked really hard. Yeah. Okay, so I do have much more to offer than I originally thought. Absolutely. So that was an eye-opener for me. What was I expecting? I don't even know if I had any expectations in terms of how I would feel. Yeah, maybe I had expectations on who would be attending and why. And there was a little bit of a moment where I was like, oh, but I'm not an academic, right? You know, I am absolutely the consummate creative. You know, I am, what is it, right or left? See, I don't even know this. But yes, I'm not an academic. And there was a moment where I'm like, will academics be able to connect to what I'm saying and the way that I'm delivering it? So maybe that was my one, not concern, but I was aware that that might be a challenge, I think, in my mind, right? So once the masterclass actually started and I got to know the attendees and really kind of understood their purpose, I think that was the most important thing, to see what people wanted to get out of the masterclass, because obviously as a person facilitating it, I want to fulfill that. And so after the first, I think 2 hours where we had the introductions of ourselves as well as the attendees and also the breakdown of the class, realizing that, you know, the real and true purpose was to facilitate the practicality of a vision. And for me, I was like, right, I can definitely help you with that. But of course, in order to get to the practicalities, there is a lot of self-questioning and self-realization that comes along with that. So recognizing what your voice is, and that comes from really kind of understanding the impact of your culture, your socialization, your environment, your immediate environment, you know, your tribes, really understanding how that has impacted on you and your purpose and your story and how you deliver your stories. So for me, that was like setting the stage, mise en scène, right?
Absolutely.
See?
Hey.
And I really enjoyed that. And as much as I am the facilitator, I'm here to learn as well.
Right.
You know, I'm here to learn if what I'm giving is resonating, if it's effective, and if it's basically doing what it says on the can. Right? And if I'm not, then it's about me stepping back and seeing, okay, well, why isn't this connecting? What's not happening? And so as much as the attendees are here to learn from me, I'm here to learn from them as well. And it's not, you know, the masterclass is not, even though it's a masterclass, it all sounds very like rigid and structured. And there is structure, because I'm a lover of structure when it comes to the creative process, and I feel that I've learned that I definitely didn't enter into this realm with structure and strategy in my mind. I'm like, no, wonderful panel discussions and curating film festivals, and no idea how that was going to happen, and no idea that I needed a strategy and a structure to make that happen. But also, we made this a safe environment for mutual engagement and discussion and exchange. And that's what I've really enjoyed about this. And as a facilitator, what is really important to me? I am not a teacher.
Exactly. And I think that really is the point, that it would be great for people to understand that the masterclass is only called MasterClass because the people who are hosting it are, in a very humble and earnest way, masters in what they're doing.
Right.
Masters because they're passionate about what they're doing, masters because they're experts, masters because they are also in a position where they want and can pass on some of their knowledge.
Yes.
They can really share because they've had so much experience, and they can reflect on that critically. So I think that's also the key to understanding why we've decided on MasterClass rather than just workshop. For me, a workshop, for instance, is a little too hands-on, like,
right.
you know,
We're
crafty. We're gonna be building.
Which I like.
Which I do too.
I'm good with that.
I do too, but I think when it comes to creativity, as much as you want to be able to produce work, you also want to reflect, you also want to think, and you want to, again, create a space, create time for people to think and reflect. And one of the attendees used the term deconstruct.
Yes.
And I think that unpacking of things is also very interesting and necessary. So for me, I wouldn't want people to think that a masterclass is this, as you said, very rigid, structured class.
Yes.
No, it's really a moment for people to exchange and engage with someone who has a certain level of knowledge and wisdom, and that person is in a position to share.
Absolutely.
Even more.
Yeah.
Which I think was really inspiring.
It's been very inspiring. Even for me, I think, you know, I facilitate the telling of stories. And there's so many stories that have been in this room over the last 2 days. I'm like, yeah, got your email. Following you on social media.
Absolutely.
And this is what it's all about, you know, as a collective, as a Black collective, you know, because I'm very sure of who I am in that regards, but I'm also very sure that as a collective we have so much more power and ownership in telling our own stories. And I'm going to reference the film of the moment. Okay? Okay, right? In terms of the impact that it's had and why it's had the impact that it has.
Absolutely.
It's the representation. It's, you know, I think Lupita referenced Pan-Africanism, you know, in terms of working within Africa and the diaspora, the Caribbean and the diaspora, and the connectivity between those two.
Absolutely.
And what we can build from coming together. For me, that is what Black Panther, in terms of the actors and the behind the scenes, because it wasn't just the actors that were from Trinidad and Nigeria and Kenya and Jamaica and Guyana. It was the boom boys, some of the producers, you know, sound engineers. You look at the credits, we're all in there.
Yeah.
So look at what we can do when we work together and take ownership of our stories. You know? And I know there's lots of discussion and think pieces going on around Black Panther.
Absolutely.
So I won't spend too long there, but for me, that is just one of the examples out there that shows how much power we do have and how much beauty and interest there is in our stories.
And I also think, just to completely support what you're saying, that it's also important for us to just make sure that we seek that knowledge as well.
Absolutely.
That we don't take it for granted, but that we seek it, because we don't know everything about our multiple cultures and the intricacies of our many cultures. And so I think it's also very important to be in spaces where we can learn from one another. And see that we are very much similar in many ways, but we're also very different. And so to have access, I think, you know, whether we're talking about Black Panther, whether we're talking about a creative masterclass in London, I think that we can totally see that the idea is to just, I guess I would say, expand or broaden our horizons in a cultural way. In other words, just to be able to be in a space where we're like, oh, I didn't know that this was happening. I didn't know this was a perspective that somebody could have, or that somebody could feel that way, or I didn't know that those creators existed, or that. So I think it's also very much about knowing ourselves more. And so when we're talking about our stories, obviously the vast diversity of our stories and the plethora of stories that we have, most definitely.
It's been beautiful.
It's been
and
beautiful.
Thank you for creating this, you know, for creating this masterclass, for creating this vessel for us all to come together and have these discussions, you know, and then walk away from that feeling empowered inspired, motivated. You know, it's necessary. The work that you're doing is necessary. And as I've said, you are actually building the table and building the seats for us to all come together. So that's what this weekend has meant to me.